I'm going to give you 9 essential questions that every single RVer needs to be asking themselves, starting right now. Hey there, Dr. Dave, the RV dummy. How are you doing? Give me a quick like if you can. Just takes me a second, and I guarantee you're going to love this one because I've got a special edition. My good friend and fellow RVer, Mark Weiner from the Los Angeles, California area, sent me a little outline via email the other day with 9 really good questions or points or bullet points that we should all be asking ourselves as RVers or future RVers. So I'm going to give you all 9, and I'll give you my answers personally, and then you can take it from there. Before I get into it, I'll tell you I'm having a lot of fun. Sireney, which is the name of my RV. I'm inside of it right now. It's a Class B. It's a Pleasure Way XLTS 2006 build, and I'm here just kicking back in the COVID-19 virus era where we really don't travel much. We're just kind of here outside of my house. If you look right outside the window there, which you can't see, my house is right there. Literally, this is my RV fun, at least for now. And like I said to you last time, I'm having a blast. It's okay. The world is changing, and we're going to get through all this, guys. Okay, so let's get right into Mark's list. Question number 1 is, how do you keep things in perspective regarding the money when you own an RV? And I think when Mark wrote this question, he's referring to things like upgrades, additions, changes, improvements, things that you're going to want to do to your RV once you get it. Because I will tell you this, as you know, once you get an RV, once you pay for it, that's not the end. That's only the beginning, as they say. And there's you can always be doing something. There's going to be something that either needs to be repaired, something that's not right, something that you think needs to be upgraded, something could be better, more beautiful, whatever it might be. My feeling on this, and Mark and I differ a little bit. Mark is more of a let me make this improvement, let me pay some more money and get this better. And there's nothing wrong with that. But my feeling is, if something is good enough and it's working well, I'm just not gonna go ahead and change it or upgrade it. With the exception, look, when I bought this, I put a brand new sound system in the front, in the back. It's beautiful. I love it because I love sound. I love music. But other than that, I just have not put a lot of money into improvements, upgrades, because it hasn't needed anything, at least as far as I know. So it's a personal decision. The only thing I'll say is be very careful, because you could go crazy spending more money than you'd ever believe. So if something is, by my philosophy, something's good enough, then maybe it's good enough. Maybe work with it. Number 2 is, Mark asks, do you have a rainy day budget or a rainy day fund set aside for repairs and maintenance and things like that? I will answer. I think it's a great idea. I think everybody should have a budget for no matter what you're doing, whether it's your RV, whether it's entertainment, whether it's home improvement, whatever it might be. Having a budget is a really good idea. So just come up with an amount that you feel is the most you ever want to spend in a month, the most you could spend per month fixing something, upgrading something, whatever it might be. And so if you need a really super expensive upgrade or repair or something, that might be 2 months worth of budget. So you might have to go a month without doing anything, and then go another month with doing everything. So again, it's a personal decision. It really has a lot to do with how much money you have to make a budget like that. But again, no matter how much or how little you have, be careful. You can always get carried away. Number 3 is, when can I afford an RV? Now, I've done extensive videos on this, but it's a really important topic, and that's why I left it in this outline. Again, Mark and I might differ somewhat on this. I have a steadfast rule, no exceptions. If you can't pay cash for your rig, if you can't pay cash for your RV, then you cannot afford it, and you need to go to something less expensive. Also, if you can pay cash, but it's going to affect your retirement, if it's going to affect your monthly cash flow paying bills, then no, you can't afford it. You can't, in other words, you can't drain a bank account and have nothing left, but you've got this beautiful RV sitting in the driveway. No, you can't do that. You got to be very careful. So pay cash, buy only what you can afford. Mark makes some statements here about, well, sometimes it is okay to take a loan. Again, that's Mark's opinion. My opinion is no, it's not okay to take a loan, because if you have to take a loan out, you cannot afford it. And you might say, well, but I can make payments. But you never know what's going to happen in the world. Look what's going on right now. Many people, and I'm not saying you, but many people got involved with buying things on credit, taking out loans for things, even maybe homes, thinking that they're going to have a secure job forever. Their investments, their retirement funds are never going to go down. But now look what we're into. We're into a lot of people that have lost their jobs. A lot of people have seen their retirement savings go down. Now, though it'll come back up, I'm very confident of that. But again, that's one reason why I believe you pay cash for what you can afford. You never have to worry about anything else whatsoever. You'll never have a payment. And that is really super, super peace of mind. That was number 3. Let's see. Let's get right into number 4 then. Number 4, Mark asks, how do you protect yourself from electrical hazards in RV parks? Do you have the proper surge protector for high voltage, low voltage, etc.? Not all surge protectors are the same. That's very true. I mean, you can go over to Walmart and get a cheapy surge protector. I'm not saying Walmart's bad. I do a lot of shopping at Walmart, actually. But you can also get a much higher end that's going to be much better insurance and protect you in extreme surges, things like that. Now, admittedly, this is one of the things that I never really thought of it. I haven't gone out and got one, but Mark shared a great recommendation model with me, which I'm going to go ahead and tell you what it is, but I'm also going to post a link for you right in the comments. And also right below here, there should be a link right there now showing that. It's the SureGuard model 34931, and that's for the 30 amp. And if you have a 50 amp, their model number would be 34951, but it's called SureGuard. I'll give you the link, so it'll be a no-brainer if you want to get one. I am going to be picking one up before we start heading out to campgrounds for sure. Number 5, is your coach actually stable enough to ride on the road? This is a serious question. You might be overloaded, and getting your coach weighed at a truck scale, like a truck stop, he calls it a CAT scale, is a very good idea. I totally agree with that. Admittedly, I've never had it done. I think our gross vehicle weight here in this rig is somewhere around 10,000 pounds, which that would make it 5 tons, I believe. But past that, I've never gone through a truck stop or never gone to a scale where they weigh trucks or weigh rigs like this. I've just never done it. And I think this will actually be addressed on on an upcoming question as well, because it kind of ties in together. So let's put that on hold for 1 second, and I'll get back to that in a second. Oh no, I take it back. It's the same one, same question. So I'm going to elaborate a little more. He says, plus, is your suspension allowing you to sway unnecessarily on turns, over speed bumps, or going into driveways? It's risky to assume that the RV conversion company built the RV out on a chassis that's ready to handle this additional weight. Well, I did have a problem with that. I had a problem that when Yoko and I were on the road way down, exactly what Mark said, going over a speed bump, I just felt like it was not stable. It felt like that. However, I did not have anything done with my suspension other than, guess what I did? I inflated our airbags that came with the rig. For some reason, I bought this used. I didn't know where it was. As soon as I inflated my airbags, and they're in the rear, to 50 pounds each, it was a whole new ride. It just felt stable, it felt better, it felt more comfortable, I felt more confident in the ride. Now, if you don't have airbags, or if you have some other type of problem with suspension or with swaying, you might want to go to somebody, a repair guy, the facility that works on rigs or trucks or whatever it might be, and ask them to take a look and diagnose and what could be, you could use. It might be a sway bar, it might be different different type of suspension system, whatever it might be. There definitely are ways to make your vehicle safer, and also not only safer, but more comfortable to drive. So, and it's very important. I would say that's absolutely a safety feature, especially when you start adding more weight. So check that out. But I'll tell you something else. If you've been riding, if you've been going out on the road way down, and you're totally fine, no problems whatsoever, comfortable ride, you're in control, then guess what? I don't think you need to do anything. I just don't. That's my opinion. I don't think you need to. Number 6, do you really think you have enough cameras, backup cameras, forward-looking cameras, maybe side cameras, to safely see everything going around in your RV? Great question, Mark. I think the more cameras, the better, the safer, for sure. We only have one. We've got a backup camera here. It's a really good one. It shows on a big screen right up front, built into my AV system totally. However, there are times, now I've only got a Class B, so it's not very large, but there are times that I don't feel 100% confident getting back into the right lane, knowing where, if things are really tight, knowing if I'm safe to get back in or not. So more cameras probably would be helpful, but again, that goes back to how much money do you want to spend? How much money do you have? How big of a difference is it going to make? I've weighed all that, and I'm not saying I'll never get additional cameras, because I may, but right now, I think I'm okay. I'd rather have the money in my pocket. Number 7, do you actually know the state of charge on your battery system? How do you check your daily use and power draw? So also remember, when you have a battery systems in your rig, in your RV, we've got what we call the chassis battery, which is the one that starts the engine. It's responsible for all the stuff your battery in a car would be responsible for. And then also you have some people call it a house battery or a coach battery. That's the battery that runs the lights and the powers a lot of the things in the rig. It's not going to power the AC, the 30 amp or whatever that might be, but it powers a lot of things. So you are using that as well. Other than what came standard in my rig here, and it's a little control panel, and I can press it to see where my battery power is, and it's only for the coach battery, it's not for the chassis battery. I don't have anything additional. And I never thought about it, because when I'm at a campground, I'm usually plugged in. That takes care of the problem. We're not using the house battery, and it's also charging the house battery at the same time. And also when you're driving, it's also charging the house battery. So it's just, it has not been a problem for me. That's why I don't have an additional system of meters and ways to measure it. Same thing with my propane, the same thing with some of the other stuff I have. I have what came with my rig. It seems to be working fine as far as the detecting how much is in your gray tank, your black tank, how much fresh water you have. I just use what came with the rig. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. Number 8, why don't you use your shower on your Class B, and should consider doing it, and when? So yeah, Mark might have been directing that question to me, because I've got a shower right here. We've got a shower in the bathroom, and we've never really used, it's fully functional, it's fine, but we just don't use our shower. You know why? Because when we're camping at a campground and paying, I don't know what it is, $35 a night to $80 a night, whatever it might be, they generally have a nice, comfortable shower. I can walk out of my rig, go in there, have more room, freedom to wash any way I want, and it's comfortable. That's just why. I'm not saying I'll never use this. We probably will, but I just haven't had the opportunity to use it, and it's been fine. And I'm not sure exactly what Mark meant by security. Maybe security, I'm thinking he probably means, look, there's always a risk when you go into some strange bathhouse or bathroom. Who knows who's there, what's lurking, who knows. These days, what kind of bacteria or virus is there that's not super, super clean. So maybe now there's becoming more and more reason to do everything you can in your rig without leaving and using the common bathroom, showers, all that stuff. So it's a really good point. Thanks for bringing that one up, Mark. Number 9, and the last question, how much fresh water do you travel with? I used to be of the mindset that I would usually empty my fresh water tank when taking off on the road, and because what it does, the water's heavy, and it weighs the rig down. And not only that, so you'll get better mileage, it'll just be an easier ride. Until one time I pulled up to a campground with no water in the freshwater tank, and our hose was broken. So luckily I was able to borrow a hose from the ranger there, but it was a state park, I think, so there was a ranger. Otherwise, we would have had no way to hook up our the city water to the rig here. We would have had no water in our tank, and that would have been a real problem. We would have had to probably drive somewhere to get a new hose, which I didn't really want to do. So my thinking now is I usually drive with a half tank of water, fresh water in the tank. It's not terribly heavy, but it's half as heavy as it would be if it was totally full. And also, Mark made a comment here. Let me see if it's written here. It provides, when you have water in that tank, it provides a better center of gravity when you're driving, and you get more control in windy conditions. And who doesn't want that? So another good reason to keep water in your tank. He also doesn't think the fuel economy is not going to be that much different when you have an empty tank of water or a full tank. That's probably true. It's probably not going to be significant. So those are my answers to Mark Weiner's questions. Mark, thanks so much for sending those over. I really appreciate that. It helped me with an episode that I think a lot of people are asking these questions themselves, or if they're not asking, they should be asking these questions. So there's a lot more. These are not the only 9, but 9 questions to at least get you started with. That's all I have for you today. Hope you're having a blast, whatever you're doing. Be safe. I hope you stay healthy. And until next time, Dr. Dave, the RV Dummy.